Hello friends and welcome to Knowledge by Nature. In today's video we are going to be doing a flip through of the new Primary Mathematics 2022. If this is something you're interested in, stick around. All right, welcome back. If this is your first time here, I am a homeschool mom to a second grader. We love all things books, homeschool, and sharing our journey with you. And if that is something that you're interested in, we would love if you hit that subscribe button and give us a thumbs up if you found this video helpful. So I feel a little bit like a Britney Spears video. Oops, I did it again, and I have definitely done it again. I bought a new math curriculum. We have done Dimensions Math, which worked really great for us for KA, KB, 1A, and then 1A we just kind of hit a wall, and so we switched over to Primary Mathematics for 1B. So 1B went really well. We aren't quite finished with it. We have to finish up just a few more before we can start this. And in the back of my head, I keep thinking, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. But I just had to see what this program was all about. I just couldn't help myself. So I went ahead and bought it. There are like no videos on a flip through for this right now. And so I'm hoping this is helpful for some of you so that you know, do you want to switch from what you are? Are you happy where you are? Or is this worth the switch? So that's what we're going to do today. Is I haven't used it, so I can't give you an opinion on how I feel about it, but I can do a flip through so that you can kind of get a little bit better idea of if this would work for you. The first thing I want to point out that I really had hoped would not be the case is you can see that the teacher's manual is just a little bit bigger. I loved that about the original primary, that the home instructor's guide was the same size as the workbooks. This one is not the same size, but it's not super obnoxious like the Dimensions Math was, at least, but it's still a bigger home instructor's guide, but this is just a personal preference. So I have the Primary Mathematics Home Instructor's Guide for 2A. I have the Primary Mathematics Student Book for 2A, and I'm going to get into this in just a few minutes, so hang in there with me. And then I did the additional purchase of Primary Mathematics Mastery and Beyond. Now, depending on what site you're looking at, they may tell you different core components. However, I found on the actual Marshall Cavendish website that these are the core components right here. This is additional. The same thing with the workbook. I will show you all of that, but first let's go ahead and let's dive into that. Just before we get started, an FYI that Marshall Cavendish is different from the Dimensions Math, which is Singapore Math. Those are two different publishers. This publisher, Marshall Cavendish, is the same one that came out with the original Primary Mathematics. So if you're interested in that, you can definitely do some more research on it. But Dimensions Math, which is published by Singapore Math, is different than these. There are different programs and different authors and consultants that make these, and so just a heads up that there is a difference between those. Right here from the very beginning we can see the core components, and let's zoom in here. So the core components of this is the student book. Aims to equip students with strong conceptual understanding, critical thinking, and problem-solving skills. This green book right here is the student book, which we will also look at. The other note I want to make here is student books are also available as ebooks for students to access during home-based learning. So if you were interested to have this student book digital, it is available. Your next core component is the Home Instructor's Guide, which is this book that we are currently looking at right now. And then Practices in Mastery and Beyond guide students to apply essential mathematical concepts in unfamiliar context. So, that is the 3 core components that Marshall Cavendish is recommending. Now, there are also resources for different instruction, which is the additional practice. During my research, I was told by a different publisher that the core components would need to be the Home Instructor's Guide, the student book, and the additional practice. But this publisher says that these 3 are the core components. One issue that we had with Dimensions was that it ended up being too much workbook stuff, and that is why I went with these versus the additional practice. Now, if you want to have a lot of workbook pages, you might want to get the additional practice. For me, my additional practice, I would rather break it down into doing more hands-on learning, getting out some more games, practicing it that way, versus more workbook pages in this format. Over here, it just talks about the assessment opportunities that are in each book and then other books that you can purchase. Then we have this chapter pathway, and this is showing an instructional pathway across a chapter provides an effective learning experience for all students. The different sections and features in each chapter help students to build conceptual understanding through a range of practice and fluency, building activities, as well as frequent opportunities for discussion, timely, differentiated instruction, and problem-solving opportunities. So right here we have our chapters, which is lesson 1, 2, lesson 3, lesson 4, all the way across for chapter 1. Then in class, we're going to have chapter opener recall. We're going to have a task, learn together, practice on your own, and then we have this additional support is going to be the different instruction that's going to be in a different workbook. We go over into section 1B where we're going into lessons 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And again, it's broken up like this. You will see at lesson 7 of chapter 1, we're going to have a performance task, a STEM project work, chapter practice, and then an assessment chapter test. So it is broken out differently than the other programs have been for sure. And this was really a main draw for me, having this STEM project work, just because she really likes that sort of thing. And to have it already included in our program, I thought that could be a really positive thing for us. Right down here at the bottom, you will see Mastery and Beyond goes the full length of this chapter of having different things that you do throughout the time. Then we have the strong fundamentals based on proven Singapore math approach. This is where it's talking about what is the Singapore math. And then if we go over here, we have the characteristics where we talk about the concrete, pictorial, abstract. And you may notice that a lot of this is very similar to what we have seen in the other programs. Up next, we have structured for effective instruction. We have the phases of learning where we do the readiness, the engagement, the mastery, and it's just a circle of doing these things and getting them to understand the concept. It shows you where this is going to be. So here is a picture of chapter 3, where it is showing you the chapter opener, a recall section, which is all in the student book. Then we come to the engagement section where we are going to do a task, we're going to learn it together, and we're going to do an activity. And there's little notes along all of this to kind of point out exactly how you're going to complete all of these. Then we're going to continue over here with the learn together section and the activity. Then we come to the mastery section of we have done the readiness where it's the chapter opener. We've done the engagement where we're learning together and the activity, and then we're doing the mastery. So the mastery part of the student book is going to be practice on your own, think, chapter practice, performance task, STEM project work, heretics, reteach, additional practice, extension, and mastery and beyond. So Mastery and Beyond is part of the other book, but we can see here that they're going to think about something. This challenges the student to use different strategies to solve problems. Then we have the practice on your own section, and this is all within the student book. The student book is different this time, where it's not just the learn about it, it's you're actually doing it. So there's workbook pages inside the student book this time. Then we're coming over to the performance task, and they are assessment tasks that are set in real world context. So for instance, right here, they are talking about the White House and how the White House is the home to the president. The White House has 412 doors and 147 windows. How many more doors than windows are there? They have that. Here is our STEM project, where this particular STEM project is going to be making pixel art. So it's going to be bringing in real life math things and applying them and using them. Then we have chapter practice, which consolidates concepts and skills across a chapter through leveled and independent practice. Up next, it gives us an example of solving the heretics, and that is a dedicated section to teach problem-solving strategies. Then we have Master and Beyond. This is what that workbook page is going to look at. We have reteach sections, additional practice, and extensions. All of this is going to be in a different section of a book. And then it tells you about the Home Instructor's Guide. So we have the chapter overview. We have a chapter at a glance where it tells you day 1 of 17, day 2 of 17, and what you're going to be doing, what resources you will be using, what materials. All of that is kind of at a glance right here. Then we have the chapter opener, teaching tip, recall, make it a game, for additional support, and then digging deeper. So I do like the way that this is breaking out the teacher's manual. It's a little bit more informative, a little bit clearer than the original primary, where the primary showed just kind of all one page. There wasn't a whole lot of sectioning out. This one does section it out, box things for you, which makes it a little bit more teacher friendly. We have the lesson opener, all the things that you're going to be looking at on your teacher pages. Continuing on, they continue to explain everything that you're going to see, what each little box is going to be, what each section is wanting from the student, and how to help them get there. This shows the expert panel that has worked on this, all the consultants from both the Singapore side as well as the US side, and then we have the author of both the instructor's guide and the student book. Here is the table of contents, and so I will zoom in on that so you can see what is covered. Keep in mind, this is broke out a little bit differently. So for instance, this is going to be 17 days worth of lessons, I believe is what it recommends. Chapter 2 would be 27 days, but first I'll go ahead and zoom in so you can see what Chapter 1 is going to teach. So here is the table of contents for Chapter 1. We have numbers to 1,000, count to 1,000, number patterns, compare and order numbers, number lines, count money, and then we have the chapter wrap up with all of the STEM project, the performance work, the chapter test, chapter practice, and self-reflection. All of this, I believe, is 17 days worth of teaching. Then we come to Chapter 2. Chapter 2, table of contents. This is all going to incorporate 27 days is what it is showing in the book. We have addition within 1,000, add fluency within 20, add tens or hundreds, add without renaming, add with renaming, add 3 or 4 two-digit numbers, and then again we have the chapter wrap-up, performance task, STEM project, chapter practice, chapter test, chapter self-reflection, my journal, and then we have a solve down here. So this is all for Chapter 2. Moving on to Chapter 3. This is, I believe, 24 days of instruction that they have for Chapter 3. So we have subtraction within 1,000, subtract fluently within 20, subtract tens or hundreds, subtract without renaming, subtract with renaming, relate, addition, and subtraction, and we have all of the wrap up, the practice, the test, everything again, and another solve at the end of this one. Chapter 4, which is the last chapter of this book 2A, and it suggests 17 school days. We have addition and subtraction using bar models, sum and difference, part whole model, comparison model, word problems. We have the wrap up, the test, the journal, all of that again. We have another solve. And then at the very end of the book, we have the teacher resources and the index. Now, getting into the actual chapter, we'll look at one, but we've already done the flip through where it's showing you everything. But I do want to show you the first chapter here, which is Numbers to 1000. We have our chapter overview, and in this chapter, we will build upon the understanding of numbers to 120 from first grade to deepen place value concepts. We have all the materials that we're going to need, and one thing I don't have is I do not have a base 10 set. That is not something we've ever used before. We only used the linking blocks. I do believe I'm going to go ahead and invest in some of those just to really help with getting that image of what a block of 1,000 would look like. So we have our chapter overview right here. We're talking about, we're going to be using place value to determine more, less, equal. Then we have a number line that we're going to be working along in this chapter. We're also going to be learning about identifying bills and counting. These are some key ideas that maybe the teacher wants to kind of hone in on to know that this is what we're going to be teaching. This is what we want our student to grasp. So this is everything for chapter 1. This is where they have the chapter at a glance. So chapter 1 is broken out. It's kind of hard to get all of this in the video for you, but let me zoom in on this section here for you so you can see chapter opener, recall, student book, page 1 through 4, and this is day 1 of 7. That's just your introduction. We're introducing, so you could definitely add something else to this day if you wanted, but we're just looking at this today. So we have the learning objectives, vocabulary, resources, and materials. These are the materials you're going to need for that day. The next day, we have section 1A where we're going to count to 1,000, have our student book, page 5 through 10. We're going to read and write numbers up to 1,000. That's our learning objective. Then these are the vocabulary that we're going to be discussing during that section. Our resources. So if you have the additional practice workbook, this is what you're going to do that day. If you have the Reteach 2 section, this is what you're going to do that day. If you have the Extension 2, that's what you're going to do that day. So if you have these resources, this is what you're going to use today. Then we come to day 3 where we count to 1,000s with hundreds, tens, and ones. And then we're going to relate the value of each digit in a 3-digit number to its place. Then we have, again, additional practice, reteach, extension, mastery, and beyond. So you can see the book that I've got isn't used every single day, but it is something that we're going to visit a few times throughout the chapter. So I'll just kind of show you this so you can see a glance at chapter 1 of everything that they are going to expect from chapter 1. Then we go to day 10. I will go ahead and flip this for us. And then we finish off right here with going all the way to day 17, which is actually the chapter test. So you can see the STEM project is a day on its own. So there is a lot of room for modification, I believe. But since I haven't actually used this, I don't want to delve too far into that. And then we come to day 1 of 17. You can see that right here. We have the chapter opener and it says student book page 1. What you would want to ask your student, a teaching tip. Then we have recall, student book page 2. And I'll actually just go ahead and open that up so you can see it as we are visiting. So as we open up to day 1, we have the chapter opener, which is page 1. Then we have the recall in the student book, which is page 2. And you can see that this is very colorful. Lots of color, and you can see that we have a lot more work in this one than we have had before, because the workbook is essentially the student book now also. So we have the recall section here where we're going to be kind of using the things that we have learned from 1A and 1B. Again, make it a game section where it encourages your student to play a game to really get the math concept. Then we have more questions that you're going to ask, additional support, digging deeper, teaching tips, which are very helpful, and then the recall answers. Day 2, we have the lesson objective with the vocabulary, the materials you're going to need. You go to the lesson opener, then you're going to learn, which is page 5. So this is all kind of coordinating back with that chapter opener that we saw at the very beginning, but here is the next lesson where we're going to learn. We're going to talk about that picture. We have a teaching tip, and right here we have the learn answers to the student book. I think the little animals are just absolutely adorable. That is another reason why I went with this one, is because it is colorful and there's animals, and she loves both of those things. Then coming back here, we have our Learn Together, where you will go to the next section, which is here, Learn Together. And these are the things you're going to discuss with your student. We have the answers for that. Then we have the lesson debrief, where we're going to reflect and connect, digging a little bit deeper, practice your own, and that is also right here in the book. Let's go here. So practice on your own is where you're going to hand this over to the student, and they are going to do a small number of questions for that chapter. So all of this learn together, you're doing this together with them. Then when it gets to this section, they're going to practice on their own. So they are going to do these sections of the workbook. And personally, I think for us, this is plenty to have on a daily basis, and then be able to add in extra with the Mastery and Beyond. Then here we have the answers to practice on your own that coordinates with the student book, more resources, and then that is the end of your first full lesson on chapter 1. This continues to follow through with the same format throughout the whole book. The teacher's manual is all black and white, but I do like that there are some different sections broken out here to really grab your attention. A few more like tips and tricks for teaching, which is always really, really nice. And then at the very back of the book, we'll go back here. These are the extra resources that you will print off if you need them. There's likely that you already have some of these things or something that you can use in place of these, but these are available if you need to print them off, and these will be called for through different lessons by their TR number. So this is the Home Instructor's Guide. I hope that gives you a pretty good look at how it's set up, how you would use it. I will show you the student book just a little bit, and just a reminder, if you need to know where you're going to use your additional resources, all that's going to be right here, all on this chapter at a glance. So coming back into this student book, it's nice and colorful. We have these cute little animals that's going to follow us along. It has a little welcome to primary math and a kind of how this book works with these. So we have our chapter opener, a task, a learn, activity, learn together, and then practice on your own. Then other features in this book with our cute little robotic raccoon here, we have the recall section, math talk, chapter practice, think, performance task, STEM, and then the solve section. And then here's another cute little fox. I love it. I think it's so, so cute. Here is the contents again that we already viewed in the teacher's manual. And then continuing out here, and then we have our chapter opener, which we saw. So very colorful, very updated on our images as far as what we're seeing here with the electronic devices versus what we might have seen in the original primary. And then very colorful student pages. So this is where you're working together working together to answer these. And then they have little sections here that are I can, and the student can kind of check, read and write numbers to 120. Check it. They can do it. If they can't do it, let's figure out how we can kind of master that. And it's just quick little ways to know what we're accomplishing and maybe what we need to work on just a little bit more. A few more little animals that we have here, very colorful. I like that the workbook and the student workbook are kind of all together, and it's very colorful. This is because it has both all together. It is thicker than the original primary because it's got more in it than just the teaching material. And with the original primary, I also noticed that we maybe reused a page a lot and would go back and look at that. I don't know if we'll experience that with this one. There are a few little notes here, like you'll see here and here. So this is like the little, let's talk about math. This is showing a little PDF image here that you could get like a download maybe. I'll just flip through this just a little bit so you can see that it isn't insanely colorful, but it does have some color to it. So it's not just like a giant coloring book by any means, but each page does have some images on it that are colorful, which I appreciate. This is the Primary Mathematics student book. Now let's go to the last one. So again, I chose to go with Mastery and Beyond because Marshall Cavendish recommended that these are the 3 core components. So that is why I went with this. I also did not get the additional practice because I don't think I need the extra workbook practice right now. She burns out quickly if I have too much workbook practice. So I thought that I really didn't need it. Now it could be that later on we change our mind, but that's the beauty of homeschool. You can change your mind wherever you want. So this one is much smaller because you're not using it every single lesson. You are using it maybe every other, something like that. So you can see for chapter 1, there's only 6 practice units for that. Chapter 2, we have 4 practice units. Chapter 3, 5 practice. Chapter 4, 4 practice. This book provides you with meaningful and interesting practices for further understanding and exploration of math. You can show how much you love math and how well you know your math. You can develop confidence in math and build your math power. And then all the little animals are like, let's master math and go beyond. So that's cute. Now, if you're not into all this color stuff, you may not like this version very much. But for those that do enjoy a little bit more color, this was a pleasant surprise to see that the student sections were in color. So we have for chapter 1, practice 1 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages. So that's quite a bit of workbook practice, in my opinion, in addition to what they're doing in the student. So I definitely did not want to add in more pages on top of this. And since this was what was considered my core curriculum, that is why I went with Mastery and Beyond versus the additional practice. I just knew that would be too much for us. But you do you and what is best for you. This is what I think is going to be best for us. And then we would have our chapter 2, all colorful. We're following the same little animals along. They don't show up on every page, but they do show up quite a bit. And we're looking at a little bit of color on every single page. So there we have it. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions or comments, please put them down below. I would love to help you as much as I can because I know it's really hard to switch over to a new curriculum when you don't know what all is involved. Now, I have not used this. I will definitely be doing an updated video once we have used this. I will be doing a do a lesson with us, and I will be also just doing an updated review on what we're thinking of it. I loved primary math, the original. It really was beautiful. I liked it a lot. It worked really well. I would have been 100% fine really just staying with this, but my curiosity just got me. I had to see if this was even better. I just had to see if this was even better. And I knew it was color. I knew it had those STEM projects. And it said that it was just an update on an already wonderful program. And that was just something I couldn't not try. Now, you will see I only bought 2A because I don't know if I'm going to love this better than I love the original, but I am going to try it. She really likes the animals. She likes the way that the color is, and so I'm hoping this is something great. If not, you know what? I'm just going to go back to primary 2B. Hopefully this will be great. Hopefully this was super helpful for you. Again, put down in the comments any questions that you may have. Thank you so much for watching. Hit that subscribe button for me. Give me a thumbs up. I love it. YouTube loves it. And I thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next one. Bye, friends.